Have you ever looked around your home and thought, if I were gone tomorrow, who would have to deal with all this? I had that thought one morning after I turned 68. I wasn't sick. I wasn't in crisis. I was just sitting in the kitchen, holding a chipped mug I hadn't used in years, and suddenly, I felt buried. Not in dust, but in decisions I'd been avoiding for decades. There were cabinets I hadn't opened in months, drawers filled with things I didn't even remember owning, closets that felt like they belonged to a woman I no longer was. And that day, a quiet voice in me said something I hadn't dared speak aloud. I don't want to spend my later years maintaining a life that doesn't feel like mine anymore. Here's the twist no one tells you. Decluttering after 60 isn't just about stuff. It's about control. It's about legacy. It's about deciding, with love and clarity, what gets to stay with you and what doesn't. Because underneath the piles, there's a quieter fear. One we rarely admit, not just of aging, but of becoming invisible, of losing our voice in our own space, of leaving behind a mess that someone else has to clean, not just physically, but emotionally. That's why I made this video. Not to push you, not to shame you, but to walk beside you. I'll share 9 brutally honest, but deeply freeing rules that help me move from overwhelm to ownership. These aren't cute tips, they're clear boundaries. Because sometimes kindness looks like firmness. Every rule comes from experience, mine and that of other brave women who've chosen less and found more. And I promise you, none of this requires youth, energy, or a Pinterest-worthy home, just the willingness to begin, gently. Today, and the last rule? It's not even about decluttering. It's about the kindest gift you can leave behind, for your family and for yourself. That one rule changed everything for me. Before we begin, I'd love to know, where are you watching from? And how has your relationship with your home been lately? We read every single comment, and your story might be just what someone else needs today. Now, if you're ready, take a deep breath with me. Let's start with the hardest, but most honest truth I had to face. If you wouldn't buy it again today, why are you still keeping it? 1. If you wouldn't buy it again? Today, let it go. If you saw this item in a store today, full price, no discount, would you bring it home? That's the question I started asking myself when I realized my home had become a museum of other people's expectations and past versions of me. One afternoon, I pulled out a bread maker from the back of a cabinet. It had been there since my wedding. Never used, still in the box. It wasn't that I didn't appreciate it back then. I did. But I kept it for over a decade because it was expensive and I felt like I should. When I asked myself, would I spend my money on this today? The answer came fast and clear. Absolutely not. So I gave it away. And with it, a tiny pocket of guilt left my body. I had been holding on to something not because it served me, but because I didn't want to admit it, never had. There's a quiet pressure, especially as we get older, to justify everything we've kept. But the truth is, the cost isn't in the past purchase. It's in the daily energy we spend managing things we don't need anymore. Things we wouldn't even look twice at today. My friend Teresa, 74, told me once, "My home got lighter the day I stopped justifying things I no longer used." That sentence stuck with me. You can try this too. Walk into a room today and choose 5 items at random. Ask yourself, if I saw this now, as I am today, would I pay to bring it home? And if the answer is no, that's permission to release. Because when you start seeing your space with today's eyes, something softens. And you begin to realize that not everything you're keeping is about usefulness. Some of it is about memory. Which brings me to the second rule. 2. Memory is not a storage plan. Are you keeping this because you love the memory? Or because you're afraid you'll forget? I asked myself that while sitting cross-legged in front of a stack of boxes in the garage. They were labeled kids' school stuff, mom's things, old cards. I hadn't opened them in 10 years, and yet I kept them, almost protectively, as if they were holding people I loved inside. But when I finally opened one, I found dozens of faded drawings, certificates, broken pencils, and dried-out glue sticks. I smiled, I cried, and I realized something. I didn't need all of this to remember, just a few pieces. The right ones. So I set a rule. 1 memory box per decade. That was enough. I kept the drawing my son made of our old dog, a birthday card from my mother in her handwriting, and a Polaroid that still smelled like the 80s. The rest I whispered thank you to and let go. We often confuse keeping objects with preserving love, but memory doesn't live in the paper, it lives in us, in the way we speak about our people, in the recipes we pass down, in the warmth that rises when we tell the story again. Darlene, 78, once shared this with me. I told my kids, if you find a shoebox with just 4 things in it, know that I picked each one with my heart. That's not letting go. That's curating a legacy. You can do this too. Pick 1 box. Don't think of it as cleaning. Think of it as choosing what to carry forward and what can gently rest. And once you give yourself permission to carry only what matters most, a new kind of space opens up, not just in your home, but in your spirit. And the next rule? It's about stepping fully into that space. As the person you are now, aimer now. 3. You're not a museum, you're a home. Do you ever walk past something in your house and think, that belonged to someone I loved, but I don't even like it? I used to have a glass cabinet full of my mother-in-law's collectibles, little porcelain birds, tiny tea sets, and 2 antique clocks that hadn't worked in years. She loved them. I didn't, but I kept them out of duty, as if my home had become a shrine to things I didn't choose. One afternoon, my granddaughter asked, "Grandma, why do you have so many breakable things you never touch?" Her voice was sweet, but honest, and it stopped me cold. I realized I'd turned parts of my home into exhibits. I was preserving history, but I wasn't living in it. I wasn't using those shelves for books I loved, or pictures I'd taken, or things that brought me peace. I let them go, not all at once, but slowly, with care. I gave the clocks to a vintage store. I donated the tea sets to a senior center, and in their place, I framed a photo of my late husband fishing and placed my favorite mug right on that shelf. It wasn't fancy, but it felt like me. We are not curators of other people's taste. We're allowed to make space for joy, not just memory. My neighbor June, 80, once told me, "I'm tired of living in a house that remembers everyone but me." You can do this too. Take 1 shelf, 1 corner, 1 small surface. Ask, if this space told the story of who I am now, what would it hold? And once you begin writing that story for yourself, you'll start noticing something else. How many things you've kept for a future that may never come. 4. Just in case is usually never. How many of your closets are filled with someday? I opened a bin in my guest room one morning and found 5 tablecloths, all still folded, all unused. I kept them just in case I host a dinner. But the last dinner party I had was for my 60th. I'm 71 now. There were also 3 unopened boxes of Christmas lights, a bag of yarn I never learned to use, and a full set of fondue forks. Each item came with a tiny story of a woman I thought I might become someday. But here's the truth that finally hit me, and it stung. Just in case had become a prison of good intentions. I was waiting on a life that didn't match my reality anymore, and that waiting was costing me the life I do have. I made a rule. If I haven't used it in the last year, and it's not seasonal or essential, it goes. Not because I failed, but because I changed. And that's allowed. My friend Nora, 76, said it best. We keep preparing for a version of life that already ended. You can do this too. Start small. One drawer, one tote. Write down the 3 just-in-case items you know you're holding on to. Ask yourself, who would I be without the pressure to become her? And as you release those objects, you might feel something surprising. Not grief, but relief. Because letting go of someday gives you back today. And now that you're beginning to unburden yourself from other people's taste and imagined futures, the next rule will help you decide what really deserves your time and energy. Now, 5. You can't take care of everything. So choose what? If you gave yourself permission to stop maintaining a house for people who no longer live there? I was walking down the hallway one Sunday morning when I realized I hadn't stepped into the back bedroom in 6 months. Not since my grandson's last visit. The bed was made, the blinds were drawn. There were picture frames, untouched since 2015. I dusted it once a week, out of habit. Not love. And something inside me finally said, why am I caring for a space no one needs? I sat down that afternoon and asked myself, if I could only care for 5 areas of this house, which would I choose? My reading chair, the kitchen table, the bathroom. I start and end my day in, my nightstand, and the hallway shelf with my favorite candle. That was it. Everything else became optional. I didn't throw it all away. I just stopped giving it energy it didn't earn. I called it my care zones. Those spaces get my attention, my affection, my upkeep. The rest, I bless and release. There's a hidden pressure in many older women to prove we're still capable. We overclean. We overcare. We keep up appearances for people who stopped looking. But the truth is, choosing less is not weakness. It's wisdom. My friend Helen, 74, said it best. I used to maintain a house for a family that moved out. Now I keep a home for the woman who stayed. You can do this too. Draw a quick map of your home. Circle 5 spaces that feel alive to you. That matter. Then take a deep breath and say, these are enough. And when you focus your care where it counts, you stop chasing perfection. You start building peace. The next rule? It's even simpler. So simple, it might change everything. 6. If it takes less than 60 seconds, do it now. How many 1-minute messes have quietly stolen your peace? For me, it was the mail. Piled on the counter. Every day. Coupons I'd never use, bills I already paid, birthday cards I forgot to open. It became noise. Not just visual, but emotional. I told myself I'd sort it later. Later never came. Then one day, I made a rule. If it takes under 60 seconds, do it now. Pick up the letter, toss the junk, wipe the coffee ring, fluff the pillow. Light the candle. I called it my micro-movement habit. And you know what? My house didn't just get cleaner. I felt in charge, in control of the tiny, silent chaos that used to drain me. There's a deeper fear we rarely name, that if we can't do the big things anymore, we're losing usefulness. But that's not true. We don't need to move mountains to feel whole. Sometimes wiping the sink before bed is enough to reclaim the day. Ruth, 80, once said, "At my age, big projects wear me out, but I can still move the needle, one corner at a time." You can do this too. Choose 3 tiny things today that take less than a minute. No list, no pressure, just a whisper to yourself. I can do this. I just did. And as you build trust with these little actions, you'll notice something lovely. Your momentum grows, and so does your confidence. And that's what the next rule is all about. How to ask for help without losing your voice. Chapter 7. Ask for help, but be the boss. Have you ever needed help but didn't ask? Because you were afraid of being told what to do? That was me for years. I'd mention decluttering to my daughter, and within 5 minutes, she'd have a whole plan. Trash bags in hand. Just toss it all, Mom. I'd feel steamrolled, defensive, small. So I stopped asking. I kept doing it all alone, slowly, painfully, until I burned out. Then one day, I tried something different. I said, I'd love your help, but I want to go at my pace. I need you to listen before we lift. And something amazing happened. She softened. I became the boss of my own story again. We often think asking for help means surrendering control, but it doesn't. It means inviting someone into your rhythm, not theirs. It means choosing support that honors your voice. I started calling it guided support. I set the boundaries. One box at a time, no tossing without asking. Let me hold it first. That little shift changed everything. The tension lifted. I felt seen, heard, respected. There's a quiet fear in many of us, especially after 60, that asking for help means we're slipping, that we've become less than. But the truth is, real strength is knowing when to call in kindness and how to stay rooted in your own power while doing it. Marianne, 76, once told me, I don't need someone to do it for me. I need someone to stand beside me while I decide. You can do this too. Think of one person who's patient, who listens, who won't rush you. Invite them in, not to clean, but to witness, to hand you the next thing, to laugh at what you find, to walk with you, not ahead of you. And when you feel held, not handled, you'll realize something deeper, that even the most tender items don't have to be kept to be cherished. Which brings us to the next rule, 8. Sentimental doesn't mean sacred. Do you have a box that you haven't opened in years because you're afraid of the emotion it holds? I had one under my bed. Inside were old baby clothes, my wedding veil, birthday cards, my dad's watch. I told myself they were too precious to part with. But I never looked at them, never touched them. They weren't sacred. They were sealed away, quiet, heavy, and avoided. One rainy Sunday, I took the box out and opened it slowly. I held each item and whispered the memory back to myself. Some made me smile, one made me cry, and a few I couldn't even remember why I kept. And then came a thought I hadn't expected. I don't need this thing to love the person. That was the shift. I started taking photos of the items that meant something. I wrote short notes about them. I placed a few in my legacy shelf. The rest, I let go, with reverence, not regret. Sentimental doesn't mean it must stay. It means it deserves to be honored, in a way that doesn't burden you. My friend Jeanette, 81, once said, "If I saved everything I loved, I'd have no room to live in the love I still have." You can do this too. Choose one memory item today, just one. Sit with it. Ask yourself, is the memory inside me strong enough to stay without this object? If yes, maybe it's time to let it rest. And when you start to separate sacred from sentimental, your home breathes easier. So does your heart. And the final rule, that one isn't about stuff at all. It's about the freedom that comes after letting go. 9. Space is the gift you are. Leave behind. What if the most loving thing you could leave your family wasn't a box of treasures, but a room that breathes? I didn't understand this fully until my friend Martha passed. She was 82, lived a good life, loved deeply. But when her daughter opened the door to her home, she wept, not from grief, but from overwhelm. Every drawer was full, closets crammed, every inch packed with someday and just in case. I remember her saying, "I wanted time to miss my mom, but all I have is a to-do list. That shook something loose in me. I went home that night and looked at my hallway closet, the one I'd avoided for years. It wasn't junk. It was full of my old linens, candles, dusty knickknacks I kept meaning to sort. But I saw it with new eyes, not as storage, but as someone else's burden waiting in the dark. So I cleared it. Slowly, carefully. I kept one cozy throw, 2 candles I still love, and nothing else. I didn't fill the space again. I left it empty, on purpose. That quiet shelf became something sacred to me, a symbol, not of lack, but of love. Love for the next person who'd open that door and not have to carry my weight. There's a deep, quiet fear in many of us that if we make space, we'll vanish. But I've learned the opposite is true. When we leave behind space, we leave behind peace, clarity, room to breathe, room to grieve gently. Eleanor, 79, once said to me, "The best thing I gave my kids wasn't my stuff. It was the gift of not needing to clean up after me." You can do this too. Choose one cabinet, just one. Clear it. Then don't fill it again. Let it stand, still and kind. A breath of fresh air for the future. And as you stand in that quiet space you've made, know this: what you've let go doesn't lessen your life. It honors it. You are not what you keep. You are what you've lived, and the space you leave behind is part of your legacy. So if you've made it this far, I hope you're not feeling pressure. I hope you're feeling permission. Permission to let go without guilt, to clear a shelf. Without apology, to say, this season of my life matters just as much as any before it. You don't have to finish decluttering in a weekend. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest with yourself and gentle with your heart. Maybe today it's just one drawer. Maybe it's a teacup you've never used. Maybe it's a breath. You finally exhale knowing you don't have to carry it all anymore. You're not alone in this. Every woman who's walked through her 60s and beyond knows this feeling, the tug of memory, the weight of objects, the longing for peace. And here's the quiet truth, whispered from one heart to another. You're allowed to keep the love and let the rest go. If this video made you feel seen, I'd be honored if you left a comment. Tell me what's the first thing you're ready to release, or what's one space you want to leave behind as your gift. We read every word, and your voice might be the encouragement another woman needs today. Until next time, be kind to your space and even kinder to yourself. Good night, friend. You did enough for today.